with a roll call.
Mayor Lawson.
Here.
Council members Abbott.
Here.
Vanderwell.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Bybee.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Acting Chief Assistant City Attorney Coberly.
Here.
City Manager Louthan.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
All right, our invocation speaker today is Pastor Carlos Camacho. Pastor, thank you for being here.
Let's bow our heads, close our eyes. He helps with concentration. Gracious and Almighty God, we come before you today with hearts full of gratitude for the privilege of serving our community. We acknowledge that all wisdom and authority ultimately come from you, and we seek your presence in this gathering. Father, may our decisions reflect not only the needs of the present, but also the hopes of future generations. Let us not forget the most vulnerable among us, the poor, the sick, the elderly, the marginalized, and the children. May we be faithful stewards of the trust placed in us, working not for personal gain, but for the common good. Bless this city, Lord, its leaders and its people. Guide us with your wisdom, strengthen us with your courage, and fill our hearts with compassion. May all we do bring honor to you and foster a community where love, respect, and justice reign. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Ben Brown, will you lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving on to public comment. Let's start with Walt Rosenberg. Come on up, Walt. I think the mic on the right is open. This one? On your right, yes.
Hi, my name's Walt Rosenberg, and I'd like to address my comments to our wonderful, fantastic, incredible police department. I live off of Balmoral Drive. I'm sorry, that's an old address, off of Belmore Drive. And I call it Belmore Speedway because that 25-mile-an-hour speed limit is a waste of money because people just speed down there. And if you do the speed limit as I do, you have tailgaters. And what really warmed my heart was one day I saw this wonderful Sparks Police Department set up speed traps and were pulling them over. And I couldn't believe how many red lights I saw. It was so wonderful. And so it lasted after they left, it lasted about 3 days, and then the people are back to business again, ignoring speed limit signs. But for the few days they were there, it really warmed my heart. And I give my wholehearted thanks to our wonderful Sparks Police Department.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think they're not called speed traps, they're called safety performance enhancement. Got to have a long government name for it.
Okay, I'm old school.
But it works like a speed trap.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Walt.
You're welcome.
Mark Markel.
A Yucaipa man was in critical condition Friday at Loma Linda University Medical Center, where he was taken for treatment of head injuries after a car crash Thursday, authorities said. Mark Markel, 24, was thrown from a 1977 Datsun as it overturned on Live Oak Canyon Road at the eastbound Interstate 10 off-ramp at 4:30 p.m., said California Highway Patrol Officer Amber Drysdale. The driver was heading south on Live Oak Canyon Road when he lost control of the car, struck a curb, and skidded into the off-ramp. The vehicle rolled over several times and landed on top of Mark Markel.
Thank you. I was a passenger. Good morning, City Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, and City Attorney. Our acting city attorney. My name is Mark Gunn. I'm a concerned Nevada resident. I I come here once a month, no, once every 3 months,
Whenever you want.
whatever I want. Okay, I come here when I want. And I had a car land on my head, so I'm not perfectly adverse to this commenting situation, but I do what I can because I feel it's important that people do not drive with drunk drivers and don't drink and drive. But if you're ever in a situation where you have to drive home with a drunk driver, go on the bus or take a taxi or no, Uber or Lyft. I don't know. But I just don't ride with the drunk. And see really all the things that happened to me, and I appreciate that. I can't read. I can't track. Anyways, I want to say thank you and don't drive with drunks. Bye.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. Ms. Vanderwell,
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Mr. Anderson.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Looking for an approval of the minutes. Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the minutes of the Sparks City Council meeting for January 27th, 2025.
Ms. Bybee.
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, let's move on to item 7.1, presentation from Northern Nevada Public Health. Mr. Chad Kingsley, Dr. Chad Kingsley, sorry. I gave you a demotion.
Depends on the day. Thank you for having this opportunity to be here. I'm about 10 months into my position now, and I wanted to be able to be accountable to all jurisdictional partners, be able to come and present and collaborate and present with you. So overall, just here for collaboration, accountability, and resilience, as we are in a sense a regionalized health services for our community and our constituents. So just going to go ahead and give an overview of the health district, what we are, and just our current stability, where we're at, and some things for the future, and then take any questions and follow up from you on these points. So overall, we know we exist under, it's regionalized since 1958. Public health has been regionalized between Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County, and creating and providing the health services. So public safety and public health are on the same coin on two different sides, but work together to prevent and provide a strong economic and healthy environment for our community. So overall, currently looking at the District Board of Health as composed by both NRS and here. So 2 members of City of Reno, 2 members of City of Sparks, and 2 members of Washoe County with 1 physician. An elected official being one of them, and appointed of those 2 members each one. So an overview of my office, it's the Office of District Health Officer. So the county official for many of those official points that are required. And then we also perform a community health assessment, which feeds into the community health improvement plan. That community health assessment is done with Renown. We do it every 3 years. So that's when we go out into the community. We investigate, we ask where are the gaps of services that we are missing, and we evaluate those. And then we, based on that, we put forward a plan to try to make an impact on those either gaps in services or improvements that are required. As part of that process, we're also public health accredited board certified. We maintain that on a 5-year process. Then for the health district, part of my position is workforce development, as well as community outreach, communications, and government affairs. So when we look at our 5 divisions that we of course have our administrative health services, which is our budget and fiscal compliance, technology, facilities, HR. The rest are many of our mandated that are required through statutes. So just going to run through those really quick. And many times, I change my hats 2 or 3 times during the day, depending on what the subject is. And sometimes not understand the breadth of what public health is. But for epidemiology, we have about 80 more diseases that we have to monitor by law, that when they are reported, and healthcare professionals have to report them, so that when reported, we have a case type thing we opened up, has to be investigated and resolved within 24 hours. And that's kind of contact tracing, but we have to monitor, report, investigate, intervene, and educate. And this is really, when you go back, especially here in the West, there are 2 diseases that are almost written to the Constitution of states, and that's what's back in the day was consumptions, if you ever watch old Westerns, which is tuberculosis and rabies. Old Yeller is the other one we'd probably bring up. But, so that's really that was public health. How do we prevent these diseases, and how do we monitor them and know when they're going on? But now we have about 80 of those diseases. They are unfunded mandates. Majority of the mandates that we have, that we carry, there's no fiscal note with them. But communities decided these are important, so this is public health, what we do. Also in that department is EMS, which is referencing REMSA. We have about a 30-year process with REMSA that was, in a sense, same idea to regionalize one service to help to be able to provide these services. It's always been a work in the progress. It's always overall, how do we get the right resource to the right person at the right time? So always trying to do that best for our citizens. And then emergency preparedness, this helps us to be prepared for any type of, we're always involved when there's a fire, an earthquake. An example, during the Davis fire, we helped to coordinate the evacuation of 2 different hospitals to provide those services needed for those patients being evacuated. We also set up shelters during that. And then also it's afterwards. Sometimes people forget. So there was one rally that had to throw away 12 pallets of food afterwards because the refrigerators went down for 12 hours because there was no electricity. Same thing, businesses and homes, when electricity goes out, many times they lose food. So we are also going to do that. Then vital records, which as well, we provide birth and death certificates in conjunction with the state. Environmental services, many things in environmental service are mandated. So that's inspection. So it's just not restaurants, but we help to permit. And then we inspect restaurants either once or twice a year as mandated for the well-being of our community. We're also involved, just like you are, we're part of that process for any new businesses. So for building, so any type of construction that would require, especially pools, but hotels, anything that's 28 days or less that has a transient population, we have to inspect and permit. And so not only do we work on the construction side of it, the minute it's completed, then we hold that for the rest of its life. If it's open 70 years, then we're part of that 70-year process of keeping it permitted and healthy. Vector, which is anything mosquitoes, rabies, anything that would transmit a disease, we have some mandates and we have some essentials. So mosquitoes are essential, so it's not mandated, but rabies is. So it's just kind of different points on how it's evolved over the years. Water and septic systems, especially in residential, we help permit those and provide variances when needed. Solid waste, and then we establish the regulations based on that. So. And then community and clinical health service, so that's immunizations, mandated there in many points that we have to deliver. We're the last, I would say, many ways we look. If it's in the community, then it's I say, okay, we have it at Community Health Alliance, we have it at our hospitals. Do we really need to be doing it? Where do we need to focus? Where's the gaps that are in our community that we're missing? And so I see us a lot of times as that last gap. And then our goal is to, once we're providing those services, can we help nonprofits or organizations in our community begin to deliver those services so then we can diminish ours? So it's always that kind of balance that we're looking at. But immunizations, sexual health, chronic disease, women, infant, and children, and then community health workers. A difference, there's a lot of mandated, but some essential services that we provide. And then our air quality, which is some of the best in the nation that we have here, compared to many places. I mean, 20 years ago, if you knew about inversions and what it was here and what it looked like and compared to today, we've had some great progress. And that's really where you can see the Board of Health over the last 20 years, decisions made 20 years ago, how it impacted today. We have our air monitoring as well as our burn codes that we put out. And they also work with asbestos in building and a part of an inspection and regulation permitting process. So overall, that's the health district. So any day, whatever the problem is, they can be switching around, but staff overall deals with these things. So sometimes people think, public health is just one thing, but we deal with a lot. So and it's important to be partners. The reason I'm here to be, so we can collaborate and make sure that if we need to improve, we work towards improving. Overall public health, if I just say one thing, it's prevention. And you never get thanked for that mosquito bite that never happens. So that's the hard part. You know, if we're there during an emergency, yeah, we're there evident. But sometimes we're forgotten about many times. And the point is that if you've gone out to dinner and you don't get sick, it's public health, you know. If you don't get bit by a mosquito, it's public health many points, and where we can go and help diminish those populations on mosquitoes. So a lot of times, everything we do, if a pool is always running correctly and it's healthy and no one's getting sick there, it's public health because of the inspections. So we're part of that process. Just as you guys are on many points to help our economy thrive through your permitting and businesses and help growth. But we're there for longevity, economic stability, and growth. So governance, currently how we govern Northern Public Health, we set strategic priorities. These are our 6 that we set: healthy lives, healthy environment, local culture of health, impactful partnerships, organizational capacity, and financial stability. So with those, we set goals with each one, and this is just an example. So it's number 2, healthy environment. So through a program management process, we set goals. And from those goals, we set objectives, and how are we obtaining that? So currently, right now, for year 2024, and our current year, we have 18 on target, 1 off target, 3 critical, and 2 deferred. And so this is a process, and we present this to the Board of Health on a quarterly basis. Where are we at? How are we governing? Are we meeting our goals? And then we always have a focus too, so customer service and efficiency, for example, on this one. So, and then we track this data so that we're able to have it. So recent interventions, just to bring up some environmental health services. When I started, a lot of complications there, so we began community engagement and collaboration. We've had meetings both at Reno as well as the AGC, as well as many of our members, and identified those issues, things that we were doing wrong, how do we improve, came down the communication. Happy to report, we just had another meeting just past week at AGC and heard from our partners that they've seen improvements. They've seen turnaround time on our permitting, and our resources are streamlining, and permitting improvements turnaround. So, as well as pool inspections. Now, the challenge will come is that everyone wants their pool open by May 30th. So when that happens, everyone wants pools. Do we do inspections of pools? But we've now moved our staff around to be able to provide that, and also looking into possibly just where we are lacking in staff, can we bring in contract services just to get those pools out of the way so we can continue our permitting process. We'll continue there. So I came in, so January 1st was the new date. I said, we worked with staff and said, okay, bring these changes forward. What are we going to do? January 1st was the first one. We made the changes with our staff and internally, and we'll continue forward. If those changes are not being met by May, then we have Plan B that we'll be instituting with staff to make sure that we continue to provide those services that are being requested. Another is emergency medical services. So we have ongoing REMSA discussion and improvements that we're seeking, and thank you for being a participant in that. We'll continue forward. That's we never want to overreact. We want to be able to proceed forward till we ultimately have the best system that we can here in for Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County. Organizational impacts. So collecting all the data, we now have about 3 to 4 years of data. So it's being able to present this is also what we present to the board. So we're able to, our performance management, are we performing as how we're supposed to be? And so we have these snapshots overall for our staff, but overall looking at the health district, about 202 full-time employees, 192 full-time part-time positions, 41 intermittent hourly, 8 interns. Position vacancies now at 12%. So our target's always been 5%. But due to our budget, which we've seen a little bit more, we've started instituting a 10% cut. And so we have the luxury of being able to do it through attrition. So we began to freeze every position opens up, and we sit down and have the hard discussion of, is this position needed? How do we evaluate in what we do? So we're going through that process. But we, just like you, are in a downward slump. Our revenue is about $34 million, and our expenditure is about $36 million. Our health fund's holding steady, and it's helping us through those years. And it's important to have that we have a health fund, kind of like our local fund, is we have to have a reserve not only for the required cash on hand, but say, for an example, during that first year, any requirements of COVID, we had to float the money for that until further funding came in. But same thing, if we had a measles outbreak or tuberculosis go up, we have that health fund there to be able to cushion it where needed to. So we always have to be mindful of that. But this overall snapshot of that, looking at, so here's our services over the last 3 years. Clients directly served, 11,000 last year. Diseases case investigated were about 6,000, so we've seen a decrease in case investigated over that point. So 93.5 of investigations were initiated and completed within a recommended time frame. That's 24 hours. Inspections completed, and so this is for our overall for our restaurants, 8,186. Plan and building reviews completed, 3,406. So we've seen an increase. It's nice to know that we are not only plan and building reviews, that means new businesses that we've seen. So we've seen an increase, a resurgence after following 23-22 of businesses opening up. Permits and registrations, 16,000. Vital records requests and services, 52,000. And public records requests filled, 5,000. So look at that. And then overall social media posts, these are our followers, web clicks where we're trying to engage with the community. Web vits overall in partnerships, 81 with community-led press releases, what we've done in communicable disease reports and assessments provided, 78 overall. So this is why we look over a 3-year basis and we'll continue forward to see if what are the trends are. This is how we govern that in the overall what we do and how we measure our performance management. So looking at fiscal health, so we're about 50% funded through federal grants. This is like these are all grants. So the blue side is just nursing in our community and clinical services. We can have one staff that will be on 6 to 7 different grants. And so 1 hour each day, she just put time here, time here, time here. So some of them are complain about doing their time cards. But it's also the resilience of really how public health has been funded through the years. But overall, if there's a grant out there, then we go after it to be if it's appropriate for us, for our community to be able to help fund us and offset that. But looking over revenue, so our charges for our services is about 11%. Our intergovernmental grant, our grants, our tire fees, pollution control, and our funds, about 50% of it. So it's basically through our grants. Our county transfer, which involves you as one of the jurisdictional partners, about 9.5 million. And also some graphs on that, but we've had that without an increase or decrease for about 10 years now. So it's been on challenges as on some points, but there's a lot of history on how we've been funded through different points and at different times, but then also license and permits, about 4 million. This is how is our revenue. Our expenditures then go into our salaries and our benefits, which is similar to you. We're looking about over 60% of our expenditures go into salaries and benefits. Then overhead, and then other services, as well as capital. So we put in that TB clinic as it was just recently opened up. So these are expenditures. This is our staffing. So our CCHS is, again, clinical and community health is our largest, but these are where our employees are at, kind of. And all these numbers are starting to go down. This is just from about 6 months ago, looking at this. But these are trends where we're looking at, and you can see that. And then as we either stay the same or start to go down. But fiscal projections, so what we know, this is what we're looking at. So again, our local transfer, we've had at 9.5 since 2016. With inflation, cost of living, and Corn Ferry, which is conducted by the county, we should be at 12. And we're looking to do that. But our projections, just like yours, are not doing well. Assumption, state funding continues. For the first time ever, we did get state funding. Nevada has no public state funding for public health. All money from the state is passed through Monday from the federal government. So the recent freeze, it was a little bit nerve-wracking for us, but in balancing in there. Generally, we have federal uncertainty right now. We're all facing that. We've been saying it's like a political advent calendar. Each day you could open up a new one, see where we're at. Some people say pray before, on different points, but seeing it like that. We're all facing local budget shortfalls. So our revenues, our grants are flat overall with some decreasing. We do have new fees that we instigated, and with our fees, we're not waiting 15 years. We do it every 5 years, and every year it can adjust according to CPI. And so we have a better established over the last 3 years. That's good. We have our TB that's coming in, COVID funding, which is ending, and then our expenditures. So we're looking at 7% COLA over the next 4 years, each year that increasing on our staff. So due to job reclasses in 23. This is our projections, not pretty. I think we all have this similar graph within it right now. Our 25, that first dark side, 25 to 26 was actually lower. And due to the last year freezing our positions as well as really cutting back on our costs, we've already seen a decrease. So we are working with our county as well as their jurisdiction partners to address this, and we want to continue where we can. But same trend, fiscal 29 is the year that really we can't get below 6 million just to be able to operate and float that money that we need to. Just part of the contract about raising fees and stuff or whatever. But overall, so what we're doing, so we reduce staff by 10%. We're doing this through attrition, so we don't have to do cuts, but we're, again, looking at each position and having each department do that. We're reducing our operating costs. We're looking to go back, can we get rid of this car? Can we go back to a motor, instead of a motor pool, can we go back to fleet and different points where we can do anywhere we can cut? We're reducing our intermittent hourly staffing. We are performing divisional assessments, so we go through and can find any inefficiencies. And then reducing our essential services before mandated services. So what does that mean? So in order to meet the requirements for our permitting for our businesses as well as our pools, we are not going to be able to do vector mosquito this year. So it's an essential service, but we had to pull staff completely off that. Now we still have grant money for the helicopter. For the next few years, we'll be able to fly the helicopter over those places we know historically have had a lot of mosquitoes, but we will not be able to send staff out into the field to do trapping and bring it at and in classification of that. Epidemiology is the one that scares me the most, if I say what keeps me up at night, but we are about one epidemiologist per 100,000 of our population, where we should be at 1.8 per 100,000. So right now, we have capacity to meet those 80 above mandated diseases that we have to monitor. But if we were to have any type of incident, we would not, and we'd come to the decision of either we stop investigating these diseases and do this or that. So again, there's resilience. I don't want it to be doom and gloom, but that's just the one thing that we're always kind of nervous about. Administration, we've gone to lean production. We don't have overtime at this time, and relying on salary to begin moving forward, but lean production with our staff. And then environmental health, again, lean, as well as limited response for auxiliary services. And then this has already changed. So we had been pulled back on lead services that had already stopped. As we had immediate stop order, but that's still there. That's just a minor one, lead surveillance. But we have a few more coming up, possibly any sexual health or in vaccines that we're working for. So epidemiology, unable to meet 24-hour response, intervention for mandated disease surveillance, environmental health, increased turnaround. If we reduce staff anymore, then we're going to have increased turnaround and processing for inspections, permitting. So we'll have decrease in vaccinations, loss of community access, loss of sexual resources, decrease in loss of women, infant, children. And so intervention. So overall, I don't think we're going to get the projected funding. I think we're going to be okay, and as long as we don't get hit something hard. But we've gone through this before, and we can do it again if we need to respond to the community where we need to. What keeps me up at night is just those ones. So as it was reported this morning, I saw it evolve over the last 2 to 3 weeks that bird flu was first detected in our sewage system. We didn't know anywhere else, and then a week later, it was detected in our dairy, and both detected in dairy as well as in our livestock. Further investigation, the first cases, so FDA pulled back any type of I was going to say FDA, but for Future Farmers America, it's not that anymore. The name's eluding me right now. Sorry about that. But in any type of livestock displays or out in the community or connection between those. Last week and a half ago, 3 cases was detected in cattle, and we had our first case yesterday of human infection of H5N1. We're monitoring it, and right now Central Nevada Health District is the one who's championing that up, but we have detected it now in Nevada and has transmitted over to a human case. They tend to be highly infectious on those points, but also very controllable. So once you're on top of it, make sure you monitor where it's at. And overall, that's just the overall process, but still, I'd like to say that the Northern Nevada Public Health is able to respond and is healthy right now for our community. We continue in our services and improving where we can, and also shrinking down where we need to during this time. So overall, just kind of the status, the heartbeat of Northern Nevada Public Health. I'm happy to, speaking with City Manager Dion, That maybe twice a year comes, I can be accountable. I'm sure whatever at that time, if we're not doing well, you can ask me those questions, and very responsive, we'll go back and fix those issues that we need to on those points. But open up any questions or any concerns at this time.
Questions from the council? Anybody? Go ahead.
Thank you for coming and speaking to us, Dr. Kingsley. I appreciate the work you and your team are doing to keep us as healthy as possible in this region. I have a question on the slides that you saw, especially the ones that were talking about the goals and outcomes, as well as the focus for coming year or years. Is there a way for the public to access that data and be able to look to see where things are going for this region?
Yeah, so as well as we want to be accountable to our populace, so it is available on our website. And I'm gonna have to confirm that. I know we've had discussions about it, but I'm not on the website as much as I should be. But yes, it is accessible, and we do make that accessible to the public. So if I have to follow up and provide that in an email, so if any constituents ask, so I'll provide that to the council.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure I heard this correctly. So there's no state funding towards North Nevada Public Health. Is that
No.
correct? Thank you.
We've had, and just to clarify, so for the first time, the governor put it into his budget, which was SB 118, and that provided a base funding, 2.5 million, which is 1.0, which we were able to pay for the TB clinic with. For a new TB, we're desperately in need of it. It was put into the governor's budget again. Again, is it sustainable? Is it not? Or would we be the first one on the chopping block if something comes up? But it is put forward. So right now, until 2028, we do have that. Some of the funds are non-supplanting, so we can't put them in certain places. But yeah, working towards trying to make that more sustainable. And we appreciate the governor be the first one ever in Nevada history to have done that before, to put that into his budget and for the future. So we're looking to hope to continue that. So we have sustainability. If grants fall away, then Nevada, we can set our priorities with public health.
Okay. I'm starting to get PTSD every time I hear a financial report from anybody.
Yes, sorry about that. I just we're in the same boat with you. We
We're
understand.
all in
So,
the same boat, and
Yep.
it's kind of a shame.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you, Dr. Kingsley. Appreciate you coming by, and we look forward to seeing you next go-round.
great. Happy to be
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
Nancy, are you going to present 7.2? John and Nancy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Saturday, January 18th, a guest user at Alf Sorensen Pool collapsed and went into a cardiac arrest. Staff on duty immediately began life-saving measures, including CPR compressions, use of an AED, and notifying EMS for paramedic support. During the time it took for the ambulance to arrive, lifeguards kept continuous CPR compressions while switching out between two lifeguards. The lifeguard team was able to establish a pulse before transport, and the patient made it to the hospital where they did further medical intervention. Patient's daughter and granddaughter were at the pool at the time and told us and wrote to us thanking the team for saving their father and grandfather. Aquatic Supervisor Sean Olson reached out to Director O'Connor and asked for counseling support. In cooperation with Chief Crawforth, Ryan Simpson, and Dr. Nicholas, two counselors that work at the City of Sparks Police Department and Fire Department, were quickly on board to help the team and provide assistance as needed. Acting Fire Captain Ben Brown was one of the Sparks Fire Department responders who had also happened to have worked for Sean in the past and received CPR training. Ben was very complimentary of the team's efforts.
So before we recognize our team, we would like to invite Ryan, Steve, and Ben to say a few words.
Mayor, council, manager, and everybody else here, thank you for your time. Many of you know me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Ben Brown. I'm a fire apparatus operator for the City of Sparks Fire Department and an acting captain. And a little bit about myself. I started my career here at Sparks, City of Sparks, as a lifeguard under Sean back in 2007, 2008. And so this call for me was pretty special, coming back now as an acting captain to this call and having an opportunity to help somebody. I'm also in charge of the education programs for our BLS and advanced cardiac life support renewal and education for the entire suppression division of the fire department. So like they said, on January 18th, we had a call for service for cardiac arrest. And when my crew and I arrived, along with REMSA, what we witnessed was a high-performing team working very well to resuscitate this individual. He was having high-quality CPR performed. The AED was properly placed and being used. There was effective communication with my crew and REMSA with a continuous care. I wanted to emphasize just a couple things. Through science-based education and standards, it's undoubtedly one of the main reasons people survive in cardiac arrest is recognition of the cardiac arrest event, high-quality CPR, and AED use. None of the fancy paramedic things that we do will make any difference at all if those things aren't done prior to our arrival. So with that being said, if it wasn't for these lifeguards' efforts, this gentleman wouldn't have had a chance at survival. So that's a huge point of recognition. And I take this very seriously as an educator and an active paramedic in our community. So when I say that these skills were being performed well, that's not being said lightly. So it's an honor to be here to recognize all of the lifeguards for our city that did an excellent job.
Thanks, Ben.
Of course.
Our council members, mayor, city manager, everybody else up there. I'm Ryan Simpson. Was hired about 2 years ago as a mental health counselor to take care of our police and fire. Something that was really special about this is knowing that this happened and then realizing that, you know, we're here to take care of people as well. And you guys obviously seeing the value in that and having it take place here in this incident. So I'm truly grateful for that. Just, you know, we were called in to do an incident debriefing, critical incident debriefing. Nancy kind of saw the value in that and called us in and said, hey, is there anything we can do for our people? And just being there, talking with these young folks, it was undeniable that they absolutely saved a life that day. I think, you know, having been with the city for such a long time in a police capacity, code enforcement capacity, and then going back to school and ultimately finding what I really wanted to do. And then being able to implement it here and talking with these young people and seeing, you know, we can train all we want, but I think the implementation comes from within, and them being able to do what they did that day was truly amazing, and they saved one of our citizens, and I think that's great. And I'm just, congratulations, you guys, and really honored to help you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Always one in the crowd. One Philly fan.
For the record, go Birds. Good afternoon. My name's Steve Nicholas. As a mental health professional who's worked with military first responders, wildland firefighters for many years, I have been immersed in these cultures of servants, public servants, folks who just, they are made of, you know, the substance that's dedicated to helping this world be better. When Ryan and I were honored to be in the room with these just young, talented servants, they ooze not necessarily confidence, because with great respect, you're young, and this was a first big time call, and they handled it like pros. So they had the heart of the servants, which was the first fundamental piece. And then Sean, the training that you have facilitated with great consistency. I think you had said even the day before, you guys are running reps, more sets and reps on doing our tactics well. This is as good of a servant team as I've experienced in my career. And so I'm so incredibly happy for our community to have you all, and I'm excited for your futures and the future of our community because of this really great talented crew. So it's an honor to support those who are serving, and hats off to this wonderful team. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's name this wonderful team. Clay Baldwin, Grayson Hoffler, Christina Likes, Parker Moss, Rosanna Baldwin, Jennifer Asher, and Rebecca Costangay. You guys want to come up and we'll get a photo?
Yeah, we're gonna snuggle you on in here and then, can you go that way yet? Rodriguez, can I trade you? Yep, there you go. You can stand up straight. Everybody's good. Okay, hold on, let me make sure I get all in. Okay, I'm gonna take several so I can make sure everybody's eyes are open. All right, last one. Thank you.
Sorry. Congratulations. Thank you.
You know, that is the fun part of our job. You see young people stepping up in the time of need. All right, 7.3, Trauma Intervention Programs of Nevada. Do we have anyone here for that? Come on down. Paul's going to read your proclamation, then we'll ask you to identify yourself and say a few words. Go ahead and have a seat.
Whereas Trauma Intervention Programs, or TIP, of Northern Nevada is a dedicated nonprofit organization serving the geographical region of Washoe County. And whereas TIP utilizes citizen volunteers to provide emotional first aid to survivors of tragedy in order to ease their immediate suffering and facilitate their healing and long-term recovery. And whereas TIP volunteers are on call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, each dedicating a minimum of 36 hours per month to respond to requests for TIP services, as well as participating in monthly continuing education meetings and ongoing crisis debriefings. And whereas TIP provides local individuals and families with the emotional support, assistance, and resources they need during a critical first hours following a traumatic event, responding immediately to crisis situations around the clock and providing this invaluable service free of charge. And whereas in the past year alone, TIP volunteers donated over 28,000 hours and assisted more than 35 client survivors and 2,600 first responders in Washoe County. And whereas TIP will be holding their 13th annual Heroes with a Heart Awards dinner and fundraiser on Thursday, February 13th, to honor those who have gone above and beyond to help those in need during a traumatic event. Now, therefore, Ed Lawson, Mayor of Sparks, do hereby proclaim appreciation recognition for the Trauma Intervention Programs TIP of Northern Nevada. for their unwavering commitment to serving our community and providing critical support to those in need. And he goes on to proclaim Thursday, February 13, 2025, as Trauma Intervention Programs Day.
Thank you so much, Mayor, council members. Very long title. My name's Gabrielle Totten. I'm the executive director of the program. And I'm sad all those young, awesome people from our community are gone because I would recruit every single one of them. So I just want to say thank you guys for the recognition and the support of our program. It is an incredible program, the service that we provide to our community. I would repeat what Councilman Anderson said, but you got the gist of that, right? It is a nonprofit organization. We are funded through grants and private donations solely. We run this program under $100,000 a year, providing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Services, right? So if you call at 2 a.m. on Christmas Day, we will come. If you call right now, we will send a volunteer. We can respond with 1, we can respond with 20. It depends on what the situations are. But the program is incredible. It is, as I always say, a quality of life indicator to have a TIP affiliate in our community. Washoe County is better because of this program. It is a benefit to our clients, obviously, to the emergency responders that we serve. Chief Crawford will back us up on that. He is a big supporter. Am I right? Thank you, sir. And it is also a benefit to our volunteers who respond to these scenes. It provides a huge benefit to them to be able to provide this level of support to community members and be able to come out the other side of that going, yep, I can go home and kiss my kids, hug my husband, do all those things that these folks that I just left behind cannot do. That's a gift for them, for sure. So thank you guys for this recognition. We appreciate it immensely. Our fundraiser is this Thursday. We actually are sold out. We have no tickets left, but we are doing an online raffle, so you can check out our social media. It's TipNNV, and find out how to access that raffle very quickly and easily. You can shop online. You don't actually have to show up, which is sort of cool, but you don't have to dress up either. You can drink from your couch and enjoy some shopping. So I will turn it over to our board chairman, Greg.
Hello, my name is Greg Nauman. Thanks for having me. I'm the current board president. And I just want to say a program like this only exists because the jurisdiction and the user agencies believe in having a program like this serve its citizens. Without the support of the city and the city agencies, there'd be no place for us. It's the Sparks Police Department, the Sparks Fire Department, it's RIMSA who calls us and requests to volunteer. So I just want to say thank you to the city and to the user agencies, and a special thanks to Chief Crawford, because he's been such a believer for so long in our program and a great supporter. And I know the city of Sparks, your support is not brand new either, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Guys, go ahead, Paul.
Just want to say briefly, thank you for what you guys do. I'm looking forward. Fortunately, I have my tickets already, so I'll be there. But I just want to say thank you for what you guys do. And as I mentioned, I'm a volunteer chaplain, so I've come alongside you guys that have been there for folks that are quite likely going through the worst day of their life. And I just want to commend you and your team for the incredible work they do. And also, your dinner is, what's it titled?
Heroes with Heart.
Heroes with Hearts. So what you're doing is you're recognizing local heroes that have stepped up in those traumatic events as well. And I happen to know that Chief Crawford has one of his individuals that's being recognized. I believe it's Edic Dominguez, Officer Edic Dominguez. So I'm proud that Sparks is on the list of heroes. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
You took my thunder. I knew we had an award going. Yeah, that's awesome. We're very proud of that. But I didn't have a ticket, no. All right. Anyone else? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Come over here and get a picture for our millions of YouTube fans. Just hide wherever you want.
You can hide, you can walk, you can stand up in the back. Yeah. I know. I think I saw you.
All right, let's move on to 7.4, Boards and Commission Vacancy Announcements. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The Sparks Citizen Advisory Committee has one vacancy to serve coterminously with the appointing elected official. This vacancy is for a Ward 5 representative. Committee members must be Sparks residents, preferably from Ward 5. Applications will be accepted until Friday, February 14th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. All right, move on to consent items. Anyone wish to pull a consent item? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Ms. Vanderwell.
I move to approve consent items 8.1 and 8.2.
Mr. Rodriguez. Second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Item 10, public hearing and action items unrelated to planning and zoning. 10.1, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second reading of Bill Number 2827, an ordinance enacting Sparks Municipal Code Section 10.60.135, distracted driving, which is to become effective upon passage by the Sparks City Council.
Okay. We're going to have a presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and members of City Council. For the record, I'm Sergeant Sean Congdon. So in addition to the distracted cell phone law, which is criminalized by state statute 484B.165, there are several other types of distractions that could impede a driver's ability to safely operate their vehicle. According to the Nevada Highway Traffic Safety Administration, distracted driving killed 3,308 people and injured an additional 289,310 people nationwide in 2022. These numbers include cell phone usage, eating, drinking, talking to passengers, manipulating the entertainment or navigation system, and more. These various types of distractions are not currently addressed in any state statute or City of Sparks ordinance. The Sparks Police Department has encountered numerous drivers who are not safely operating their vehicle due to one form of distraction or another, for which there is no mechanism for accountability. This proposed ordinance would give the Sparks Police Department the ability to address this dangerous behavior with a civil infraction. And I'm here for any questions that you might have.
All right, questions from the council. Ms. Bybee?
Thank you for being here. So will those distractions in the new ordinance, will they be spelled out, or will it just fall under distracted driving, and it'd be up to the officers to determine that when they'd stop somebody?
Yeah, so it's not going to like give a specific one, but I'm sure we've all pulled up to, say, a traffic light and seen individuals with the sunshade down and their mirror open, and they're doing, their makeup or eyelashes or shaving. We've seen people shaving. That's really what it's about. Anything that's going to hinder your ability to safely drive down the road. We're not going to be looking for individuals that are eating a hamburger or a cheeseburger, as long as you can safely do that and operate your vehicle. So this is really something that would help us out for the individuals that are driving down the road doing makeup and they're drifting from side to side, and they're really putting the public and other drivers at risk of, getting into a crash or something like that.
Anyone else? Donald?
Just a question. So I think overall I'm supportive of it, but like talking about the drifting between lanes, don't we already have something that we could enforce for not maintaining their lane?
There is a current law for failure to maintain a lane, yes.
And so I guess it would be more going after people that are at a stoplight or something.
Yeah, or could have, it helps us if they already had caused an accident as well.
Okay.
But those individuals that aren't paying attention, like if they're sitting at a stoplight, the light turns green, they're still sitting there and people have to honk at them to get them moving. This gives us a little bit to, be able to stop those individuals and either talk to them about their behavior, issue a warning, or if we find the need to issue a civil infraction citation.
That makes sense. Thanks for the clarification.
I have seen the hamburger guy. He spilled it down the front of him, and then he's weaving all over the road trying to get it out of his lap. So I'm all in favor of this. I'd love to just sit there to see how long it takes them at the stoplight when they turn green. 30 seconds is the longest I waited one time. Now the people behind me are honking. It's pretty, Donald just honks. All right, this is a public hearing. Anyone in the public wishing to speak? Come on down. Fill a card out for us afterwards.
It's not circuit. This is for you. Council members and Officer
Sergeant Con.
Sergeant Conigan. Yeah, you're talking about distracted driving. What about people talking hands-free on the phone?
So hands-free is okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, council members.
Thank you. All right, anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? We'll bring it back to the dais. Now I'm looking for a motion. Ms. Vanderwell.
I move to adopt Bill number 2827, enacting Sparks Municipal Code Section 10.60.135, distracted driving, which is to become effective upon passage by the Sparks City Council.
Mr. Rodriguez. Second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. At least drunk drivers are trying to stay in the lane. Neither one of them are good, but the drunks are trying to stay in the lane. All right, Madam Clerk, 11.1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second reading of Bill number 2828, an ordinance to amend the Marina Village Plan Development Handbook's residential, commercial, mixed-use standards and other related changes to development standards pertaining to the Marina Square multifamily site on a 1.307-acre site located at 305 Harbor Cove Drive, APN 037-36003 and 037-36004 in the PD Plan Development Marina Village zoning district.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the record, Scott Carey, Development Services Manager. Today for the council's review and consideration is an amendment to the Marina Village Plan Development Handbook. This handbook amendment is geared towards incorporating new design standards for the Marina Square development. A little bit of background and orientation on this one. The Marina Square, or the Marina Village Plan Development, is located on the northeast side of the Sparks Marina Park. Lincoln Way is to the north, and then the Legends at Sparks Marina is to the east. This area was anticipated for redevelopment when the city redeveloped and reclaimed the Helms Pit into the Sparks Marina Park in the mid-90s, and with that was the development of the Marina Area Plan. In conjunction with that Marina Area Plan, which the city developed, came along the Marina Village Plan Development Handbook. And over time, this 34-acre site has been developed with apartments. We have the Marina Villas apartments, which wrap around a parking garage, lakefront along the marina. We have the waterfront building, which is home to the Sparks Water Bar and Lighthouse Coffee Shop. Then to the south, there's 58 single-family residents that are part of the Harbor Cove subdivision. The subject site for Marina Square is outlined here in red. It's up against the lake, and it's bounded to the south by the canal. The first amendment to the Marina Village Handbook was in 2006, which was approved by this body. This amendment included an amendment to allow for the Marina Square multifamily project at this site. Second amendment to the handbook was approved in 2013. This handbook did some changes to the multiple use areas of the Marina Village Plan Development, and then the last handbook was in 2015, and this allowed for the Marina Square to be development to be 70 feet in height and five stories tall. While we're here today, the city received an application last year to amend the existing design standards. This slide demonstrates the existing design standards for the Marina Square development. You can see it's a 5-story project with a tan color scheme, which is very different than the rest of the Marina Village Plan Development as we've seen. The current handbook, I will point out, does allow for this development, and the review process for the Marina Square development would be through the administrative review process. As a reminder, that's a process that doesn't go to this body or the Planning Commission. It's with the staff. There are no changes to this development review process included in this handbook amendment. So with this amendment, the proposed design standards are kind of highlighted in this slide here. The current concept that's anticipated with this handbook amendment is a 35-unit multifamily project. You can see the color schemes are a little different than what we had in the previous slide. It has a sawtooth design configuration. There's new color schemes, blue and gray, and it overall incorporates a new Marina Modern design scheme, which staff believes is more compatible with the existing rest of the Marina Square or Marina Village plan development. Other changes included in this handbook amendment are minor changes. Staff would characterize those as technical to help staff administer this plan development moving forward. Other language replaces outdated language, as well as to help really reflect the true nature of how this development was built out. As I mentioned earlier, we are looking at a handbook amendment today. We don't have a project for review before this body. But the development concept is looking at a 35-unit studio apartment development scheme, kind of highlighted here in the gray. The existing handbook allows for a total of 42 units. There are no changes to the landscaping requirements or the parking requirements. The current handbook defers to Sparks Municipal Code, which requires one parking space for every multifamily unit. So if a project were to come in, they would be required to provide one parking space for every 35, or for every unit. So if it's 35 units, 35 parking spaces would have to be provided on site. On-street parking does not count towards that parking requirement. I will note one of the issues during the review process, staff did take a look at parking because it did come up throughout its review, as well as a neighborhood meeting that was held last summer. Table 3.1, which is on page 10 of the proposed handbook, outlines the total number of parking spaces which are available throughout the entire development. So there are 10 findings that the City Council is required to make today with respect to this proposed handbook amendment. Finding PDA deals with consistency with our city's comprehensive plan. Subject site has been planned for multifamily since the first amendment to the Marina Village Plan Development in 2006. Staff believes that the proposed design standards for the Marina Square development are of high quality nature and will further promote the Marina Village neighborhood as a desirable place to live. In support of Goal H3 of our comprehensive plan. The proposed amendment seeks to incorporate a new Marina Modern architectural theme, which will be used for the Marina Square development. Staff believes that the proposed architectural theme was careful to incorporate colors, materials, and other features that do make it compatible with the rest of the development. The use of these features are sensitive to the existing neighborhood, and we believe that they help provide compatibility with the rest of the Marina Village Plan Development in support of policy MG13. As proposed, this amendment will add new design standards, will help further facilitate a smaller multifamily residential unit. These smaller units will promote an additional housing type within the Marina Village Plan Development and in this area of the city, which will help support policy H2 and future residents to the city. Findings PDB, PDH, and PDC deal with consistency with surrounding land uses and the enjoyment of such uses. The proposed new design standards for the Marina Square development are not anticipated to adversely affect surrounding land uses. There are no additional units proposed other than what is already currently allowed within the handbook. With respect to finding PDC, a fiscal impact analysis was not required because the Marina Square site is less than 5 acres in size and is not changing those proposed allowed number of units that were previously permitted. Findings PDD, PDE, PDF, and PDG are concerned with the interests of residents and owners, the public interest, overall reliance on the plan's provisions, and consistency with the Marina Village Plan Development. As proposed, this amendment is intended to support the Marina Square development, which has been in place and has been allowed in this handbook since 2006. Finally, no, sorry, not finally, PDI and PDJ. Those are with respect to further private benefits. PDI indicates that an amendment cannot confer a private benefit for any one person. As a proposed amendment were to go through, it would allow anyone to pursue a development on the Marina Square site in compliance with the standards of this handbook. PDJ deals with public notice. I did mention in earlier my presentation, in July, the applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting to seek input from residents of the Harbor Cove subdivision and the Marina Village plan development. During this meeting, residents expressed concerns with parking availability throughout the site, but I would characterize it as they were generally supportive of the proposed design standards being incorporated. Total of 180 notices were mailed to owners of property, and 151 notices were also mailed to mobile home units that are located within 750 feet of the Marina Village site. Public notice was published in the Reno Gazette Journal. On December 19th, the Sparks Planning Commission held a public hearing and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed amendments to this body. Overall, staff finds the proposed handbook amendment modifications to Marina Village present a well-considered architectural design, and staff believes that they are compatible with existing surrounding uses while fostering a strong connection to the waterfront environment and representing the true aesthetics of the Marina Village plan development. The proposed handbook amendment does not seek to change the total number of units, does not seek to change the review process for future development of the Marina Square site, and it does not change any of the parking requirements, landscaping, and amenity requirements of the existing handbook. For these reasons outlined in the staff report and in this presentation, staff believes that findings PDA through PDJ can be made, and the Planning Commission recommends the City Council adopt these proposed amendments. That's all I have for my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I will note, Mr. Mayor, the applicant is here as well.
Okay. Question from the council? Ms. Spivey?
Yeah, Scott, the only question I have on the parking, it's going to require the 35 spots. Is that just a schematic? I'm looking at the parking. Will it be within whatever the project is and not include parking that's in the joint lot that's Water Bar and the other businesses there? Because I know some of that parking is taken by the other, at the one end by apartments. So my only concern was taking more parking away from that, which on a busy day is hard to find parking. Will it not include that? Will it be on site? The 35 spots be required to be on site with the project?
Thank you, council member, for the question. This is a very preliminary concept for the development. One of the requirements of the handbook is that that one parking space for each unit would have to be provided on site. One of the interesting things with the site is that it does include kind of that first row of parking that's already it's already developed on the existing parking lot for the waterfront building. That's something we'll be certainly taking a close look at the staff level with the administrative review. And so if it does kind of turn out to be this type of parking where you have one lot and then maybe another lot, make sure that proper signage is put in place to direct folks so we're not impacting the surrounding businesses and residents.
Anyone else? Scott, can you go back to your site plan with the red drawing? I think it shows on there. Yeah, see, it does take part of it. So, okay. Any other questions from the council? I'm reading it. Open public hearing. Anyone in the public wishing to speak at this time? They wrote it down for me so I won't miss it anymore. Walt, come on up.
Okay.
Well, you can ask him a question afterwards. Technically, it's public comment.
Oh, I can't ask a question.
You can ask, but you
Okay.
can't necessarily answer.
Council members, Scott, my question to you is, has any consideration been given to veterans to acquiring one of those units so they get a discount?
There's not a project at this time, Walt, so there.
Okay. I'm confused.
It will be there will be a project come forward at a later date. This is a hearing to allow it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't
I
worry.
didn't quite understand.
Hey, that's okay. I'm glad you're here.
It's my old mind.
It's new minds too, trust me. All right, anyone else, the public wishing to speak at this time? Yes, Ken Crater. Haven't seen you in a while, Ken.
Has been a while. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Ken Crater with Crater Consulting Group. And Scott did a great job in presenting the comment, but just wanted to say a couple of other things. Very excited about moving this project forward. We've literally worked for years to figure out how to make the last previously approved project work, but it was a podium structure, extremely expensive, and it just flat didn't work. But this project makes all the sense in the world, and assuming approval by council today, we're going to start on final design and submit for permits around July 1st and get this thing built. And right now, the plan is this would be operated with the same management team that operates the waterfront at the Marine Apartments, a very good professional management group. However, it can also stand alone. It's got its own amenities, its own leasing area. So either way, it should work out really nice, but very proud of the work that Jeff Holbrook, Steve Hinckley, Jeff Hinckley, who's here today, have done in bringing forward a project that I think will just add even more to the marina and the beauty of that area. And one other thing on the parking, yes, that was one of the issues that was raised at the neighborhood meeting, but most of the neighbors weren't concerned about the lack of parking in the parking lot. They were concerned about the motorhomes and stuff that park on the street in the residential neighborhood to the south. And I know that staff has been working on that. I believe there's some parking signs that address some of the issues there. And also wanted to point out there is 50 on-street parking spaces right across from this project, not within the residential neighborhood, but next to the waterfront at the Marine Apartments. So there is a lot of additional on-street parking, and a lot of people pull in the parking lot here to walk around the lake. They don't frequent any of the businesses. We don't complain because we monitor very closely, and there is adequate parking. We've even added electric vehicle charging stations in that lot just for another amenity for residents. So that's all I had to say. Appreciate your support, and thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Ken. All right, anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? All right, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
I move to adopt Bill number 2828 to modify a final approved plan for the Marina Village Plan Development Handbook associated with PCN 05074 PD 240003 based on findings PDA through PDJ and the facts supporting those findings as set forth in the staff report.
Mr. Rodriguez. Second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, 11.2. Thanks, Jeff. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second reading of Bill number 2829, an ordinance to modify a final approved plan for the DeAndrea Plan Development, DeAndrea Development Standards Handbook to modify standards related to signs within the commercial area within the 861-acre DeAndrea Plan Development, generally located east of Vista Boulevard, north of East Prater Way, and south of Los Altos Parkway, Sparks, Nevada, in the NUD New Urban District, DeAndrea Plan Development Zoning District.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, and members of the council members, excuse me. For the record, my name is Kobe Glano. I'm a planner with the City of Sparks. This item is a request to amend the DeAndrea Development Standards Handbook to modify standards related to signs within the commercial area land use designation to allow a freestanding sign within the DeAndrea Point Commercial Center. On this slide, you can see the familiar boundary of the 861-acre DeAndrea Plan Development shown in blue. The DeAndrea Point Commercial Center is shown in red and borders the western edge of the development. City Council initially adopted the DeAndrea Development Standards Handbook in 1998, which established commercial, single-family, multifamily, school, park, and open space land use categories. The DeAndrea Point Commercial Center is located adjacent to Vista Boulevard, north of DeAndrea Parkway, and south of Los Altos Parkway, and totals approximately 8 acres in size. The 3 parcels shown in red are the parcels that could potentially have a freestanding sign subject to this request to amend the handbook. In addition to updating the allowable sign types within the commercial land use, are proposed updates to the handbook's land use maps, commercial sign standards and associated tables, a new figure depicting a freestanding sign in conformance with those proposed standards, as well as removal of content-based sign standards. Immediately surrounding the subject site are single-family, multifamily residential, and open space. The closest residential use to the DeAndrea Point frontage is across Vista Boulevard, and Vista Boulevard will act as a existing buffer between the residential use and a proposed freestanding sign. The proposed changes include, again, updating the handbook's allowable sign types to include a freestanding sign within DeAndrea Point, updating the handbook's land use maps to call out DeAndrea Point. These changes can be seen on page 6 and 13 of Exhibit 4. The reason for updating the land use maps is to limit the location of a freestanding sign to DeAndrea Point. This would be consistent with the adjacent commercial center, DeAndrea Marketplace, which has a freestanding sign that was approved through a special use permit. Also proposed is the removal of content-based sign standards, such as the requirement that all commercial signage be used to identify and locate commercial businesses and office areas. Removal of this content is intended to comply with First Amendment protections for freedom of speech. The city's review of applications for sign permits is limited to location, composition, and duration. As proposed, staff believes the commercial sign standards will ensure a high-quality design that is consistent with the commercial center without regulating sign content. Additionally, the proposed modifications remove the requirement that the DeAndrea Design Control Committee, or the DCC, approve commercial signage prior to the issuance of a sign permit by the city. Staff submits that the city should not be responsible for the denial of a sign permit based on a private organization's decision. And removal of this requirement streamlines the approval process and reduces the possibility of litigation if the DCC were to reject a sign that meets all requirements under the handbook. Reviewing a sign permit application for DCC approval is outside of the city's sign review purview, which is limited to location, composition, and duration. Shown on the screen is proposed figure 3-25, which can be found on the second page in Exhibit 3. The proposed sign standards in the amendment are consistent with this figure and include limiting the number of freestanding signs to 1, requiring the sign be placed within 30 feet of Vista's public right-of-way, specifying a maximum height of 25 feet, which is consistent with the adjacent commercial center that I previously mentioned, specifying a max sign area of 200 square feet, specifying at least 50% of the numbers and letters on the sign will have a copy area of 9 inches or greater in height, and requiring colors and construction materials of the freestanding sign be consistent with the existing commercial center. The main intent here is to ensure that when a building permit comes in, if this request gets approved, that the proposed sign is substantially similar or the same as what is shown on your screen. This concludes the background and analysis portion of my presentation. An amendment to a plan development has 10 required findings that must be made by the City Council. For findings PDA, PDB, and PDH, the proposed sign standard modifications support goal CC1 and EV4 by enhancing the shopping center's placemaking elements, identification of tenant spaces, and the incentivization of retention and attraction of tenants within the DeAndrea Point Commercial Center. The proposed changes to the commercial sign standards do not alter the type or location of development allowed within DeAndrea, and therefore are not anticipated to adversely impact surrounding uses. The closest residential use is located west of the subject site, and Vista Boulevard will act as a existing buffer between the two uses. The proposed amendment supports commercial areas within DeAndrea by providing another signage option to facilitate placemaking and tenant space identification for both residents both in and surrounding the planned development. No modifications to land use or acreage of commercial areas are being proposed. For finding PDC, a fiscal analysis, was not required with this amendment because there is no proposed changes to density requirements or land use. For findings PDD, PDE, PDF, and PDG, the proposed amendment modifies design standards for commercial signage and removes content-based sign standards to better provide for the mutual interest of residents, property owners, and the public. This amendment is intended to support commercial uses within DeAndrea in a manner that is consistent with the original intent of the plan. Public interest is served by the modifications to commercial signs as they provide for more visible but not excessive identification of existing retailers within DeAndrea Point. The proposed changes will not vary the gross acreage of commercial areas or vary the ratio of residential to non-residential land uses. Additionally, the proposed amendment will not reduce any common open space area or change any commercial building design standards. As proposed, the changes will allow any interested party to pursue development within DeAndrea in accordance with the handbook, making finding PDI. And for finding PDJ, public notice was given as required by NRS and Sparks Municipal Code on December 3rd. A total of 2,668 public notices were mailed to all owners within DeAndrea and within 700 feet of the planned development boundary, as well as published in the Reno Gazette Journal. As of noon today, there has been no public comment received by staff. In conclusion, the proposed handbook amendment aims to allow a freestanding sign at DeAndrea, which is consistent with the adjacent commercial center. Staff's worked very closely with the applicant to develop a minimum letter and number height, which is intended to ensure people driving along Vista Boulevard can easily read what is on the sign. Staff believes that the proposed freestanding sign will be of a high-quality design and complement the existing commercial center. For the reasons outlined in the staff report and in my presentation, staff believes that finding PDA through PDJ can be made, and the Planning Commission recommends that the City Council adopt the proposed amendment to the DeAndrea Plan Development. With that, I'm available for any questions, as is the applicant's representative.
Questions from the council? Just one for me. Did you get the city attorney's opinion on the HOA approval? I don't know what the exact words are. This may be unfair because I don't know if you deal with this.
That was handled by our attorney who is specific to this area, and I think he's provided that information to Mr. Rundle.
But we did get an opinion from the city attorney's office.
We coordinated with Brandon Sindall, mayor.
Okay, that's all. I just didn't want to make a unilateral decision without the HOA's approval. Okay. All right. There are no other questions. I'm looking for a motion. Or I could do a public hearing.
It didn't bother you this time.
Damn it. I deserve it too. This is a public hearing. Anyone in the public wishing to speak at this time? Bill, can we get a microphone? Can you hobble a microphone out to Bill? Okay, there he is right there. All right, anyone else in public wishing to speak? We're going to close it. Walt, we're going to close public hearing and we'll bring it back to the dais. And now I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And actually, before I make a motion, I just want to say thank you for all the work you guys put in on this. It seems so funny that it was just a change in the design of a sign. But yes, you guys worked with the applicant, worked with the sign company, worked with the HOA, all the work that went into this. Thank you very much, because I know there was some back and forth on what some folks thought would be appropriate and did not. So I just want to say thanks. So now I'll go ahead and read the motion. I move to adopt Bill number 2829 to modify a final approved plan for the DeAndrea Development Standards Handbook to to modify standards related to signs within a commercial area based on findings PDA through PDJ, and the facts supporting those findings to set forth in the staff.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Cody.
Thank you.
All right, item 12.1, comments from the public. Madam Clerk, do we have any comment cards?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
You want to speak, Walt? I'm just messing with you. You can't, you lost your voice all of a sudden. Okay. All right, with that, then we're moving on to comments from the council. Mayor, City Council, Mr. Manager.
I want to reemphasize the great job Nancy O'Connor, Parks Recreation Director, her entire team have done, the lifeguards in particular, for their efforts on that front. They put a lot of time, effort, and energy into training, and that's why you do it, for those types of things. So hats off, and thank you very much.
Wonderful outcome. Anyone else?
And if I may, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say one thing too, that we heard from some mental health folks that work with the city of Sparks, and I want to commend, I don't think Nancy's still here, but for her to call up the CISM team and actually have them work. Because a traumatic event, as we were talking to the TIP team that was just here, even if it's a positive outcome, it's a good thing, it can be traumatic. And I've learned trauma is sticky and it can cause long-term side effects. So I just want to commend Nancy and the team. Thank you guys for getting them all involved.
Right. I got two things. One, State of the City, February 24th, 11 o'clock, right here in Chambers. Bring your leathers, Shauna. We'll be riding. And also, I was just told that we have a brand new councilman who had a birthday today. He doesn't look a day over 31.
Happy birthday.
Do you want to share how many trips around the sun or not?
I would just say it's not the years, it's the miles. So.
Well, I'll agree with you on that. And we're going to spare singing you happy birthday because we know what Donald did with Donald got $100 for singing lessons from his mom, and he spent it on shoes. All right. With that, we are adjourned.
You doing anything?